Hello and welcome to News Across Nigeria. I am Olumide Macaulay. On the program today, the Imo State and Abia State governments pay attention to the fuel shortages in those states. The Lagos State government invests in the police. And the Emir of Kano visits Edo State Governor Adams Oshomole. Welcome to News Across Nigeria, where we show and tell you what's happening across the 36 states of the Nigerian Federation. Thank you for joining us. We begin with Imo State, where the House of Assembly has set up a joint task force to tackle the ongoing fuel crisis in the state. Members of the committee are mandated to monitor fuel stations to ensure that independent oil marketers do not take advantage of the people. Similarly, the Department of Petroleum Resources is paying close attention to the marketers in Abia State with the aim of standardizing pump prices and clamping down on airing stations.
Concerned about the agony faced by residents before they can buy fuel, the Imo State House of Assembly has set up a joint task force to monitor and ensure that independent oil marketers stop taking undue advantage of the present situation in the country to exploit the masses. To show the seriousness of the situation, the chairman, House Committee on Petroleum in the Imo State House of Assembly, Henry Ezidiaro, held a meeting with players in the oil sector, where he voiced his disappointment about the sharp practices by independent oil marketers. Case in point is the sale of DPK at 200 naira per litre, which is above the federal government's approved price.
Once any dealer is found defaulting, diverting product, they will be sanctioned. You can see today that the Commissioner of Police was here, the Director of SSS, they were all here. This is to show that in the case of default, the necessary agencies and the necessary authorities that are involved to prosecute will go ahead with the prosecution.
Taking a cue from the lawmaker, Zonal Operations Controller of the Department of Petroleum Resources, Imo State, gave an assurance that the DPR will not hesitate to sanction airing petrol stations.
The Department of Petroleum Resources cannot be at every station all the time. When we are in a certain direction enforcing compliance, what will be happening if we are in Okigwe Road? What will be happening on Onisha Road? We may not be responsible for that. These marketers are, if I use the word stubborn, I may not be hard on them.
Meanwhile, the Department of Petroleum Resources is already at work in neighboring Abia State, where it has increased the daily surveillance on petrol stations. The goal is to maintain standards at all petrol stations to ensure that queues are reduced and all stock lifted from the depots are dispensed to consumers at the government's approved pump price.
The situation is easing off gradually. There was a time that, as I told you, there was an independent marketer we saw selling for 200 naira. You can hardly find that. What we have decided to do in this particular site is to zero in on those that lifted from the depots.
The DPR is carrying out its surveillance with confidence that things will soon get back to normal, and the assurance that more than 100,000 litres of fuel has already been sent out to NNPC petrol stations to ease the burden on consumers.
And this next story bears particular relevance for oil-producing states in the country. In continuation of the resolve to curtail crude oil theft in the maritime environment, the Nigerian Navy have arrested 11 crew members of a vessel, the MT Camille, laden with about 4,000 metric tons of suspected stolen crude oil at Forcados. Briefing journalist, the flag officer commanding the Central Naval Command, Rear Admiral Suleiman Apochi, reiterated that the Navy has a zero tolerance for activities of illegal oil bunkerers. He says that preliminary investigations are ongoing and that the Nigerian Navy is employing new technology to curb activities of oil pipeline vandals.
The flag officer commanding the Central Naval Command, Rear Admiral Suleiman Akpochi, and officers of the Nigerian Navy ship Delta prepared to unveil the latest scalp in the war against illegal oil bunkering. A merchant tanker, Camille, with 11 crew members on board, arrested at offshore Forsadu, is docked at the NNS Delta waterways.
This vessel, measuring about 106 meters long, was laden with 4,000 metric tons of petroleum products suspected to be stolen crude. Preliminary investigations are on. NNPC DPR share that has the terminal, loading terminal at Forsadu's terminal have equally been intimated on this particular arrest.
On the current fuel scarcity situation in the country, Commander, Nigerian Navy ship Delta, Commodore Raimi Mohammed, says a connection is yet to be established with the crude oil thefts.
This vessel is carrying products suspected to be crude oil, not refined product. So there's no link yet to this vessel and the scarcity of product. DPR will definitely take sample and test it, and will know from which of the international oil companies this product has been taken, because they all have their signatures.
With this latest arrest, the Nigerian Navy has again made a strong statement concerning its doggedness as it continues with efforts to raise the maritime environment of oil thieves.